Welcome to Shrewsbury Senior News. Today we're going to have a chance to learn about elder services of the Worcester area and talk with Maureen Sergi, their executive director. We're going to talk with Register of Deeds Katie Toomey and learn more about what she does and how that affects you. And we're going to talk to Dave Nordham, editor of the Worcester Telegram, and how the changes that are going on at the Telegram are things that you can take advantage of. There are also so many things going on at the Shrewsbury Senior Center. Their website is a place you should go. You look at their May newsletter or just drop in. Newsletters are there, and meet some of the staff and other people who go to the Senior Center and look at all the different things that you might participate in. Hi, I'm here today with Maureen Sergi, Executive Director of the Elder Services of the Worcester area.
Correct.
If I got that right, great. Thank you for joining me and joining us, and wanted to learn. You're one of the larger agencies in Greater Worcester, Greater Shrewsbury, that whole area. Tell me a little bit about what services you provide, and you're obviously to elders, senior citizens.
Sure. First of all, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to come today. It's always important for us to talk about services that are available in the community. Often people don't know about them until they need them. So Elder Services of Worcester area was one of 26 organizations, nonprofit organizations, created by the state 45 years ago in an effort to provide an alternative to nursing home care. So the mission of the agency is to provide supports and services in the community, in the home, so that we can allow people to remain living independently for as long as possible.
Oh, great. So you're primarily state funded now?
We are, well, we certainly have been state funded since the beginning. Now we see that funding diversified as we have insurance programs such as the SCOs, the senior care organizations. In our local area, Fallon Navicare is one such organization. So we're able to provide our similar core services to those insurance programs as well, again to provide that component of providing in-home support along with their medical care.
Tell me a little bit, which specific kinds of services are you providing?
So we are a case management agency. So when we get a phone call that somebody might be in need of help or in need of services or in need of information, we have case managers who go out into the home and do a home visit, sit and talk with that elder or perhaps with the family, and really get to the root of what are their concerns, what are their issues, what are they struggling with, what do they need help with, so that we can assess their need for supportive services to come into the home. The most common services we provide are the homemaker services, somebody to do the grocery shopping, the laundry, and do the housekeeping. Might not sound like an essential service,
it's
but
a huge
certainly
service for a lot of people.
Very important if you want to remain living independently. We provide personal care services as well, assistance with bathing and grooming. Again, very important to allow somebody to remain living independently. But we also provide services like transportation to the doctor. If somebody is interested in going out of the home to a program, we have adult day health programs that certainly are a major player in allowing somebody to remain at home. Perhaps if families are working during the day and somebody needs that medical supervision and support, there are great options out there. So we provide, we work with the elder, work with the family to develop a care plan. And then we use those state dollars or those insurance dollars to actually purchase those services and get those services initiated. And then we provide regular monitoring to make sure that they're working well, to see whether other needs have emerged, and really to tailor that plan to each individual that we're serving.
Sure, and transportation's a big problem.
It certainly is, right.
Absolutely. And then you also have recently expanded your services beyond elders, seniors, to people with disabilities. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, over the last 44 years, our services have expanded, as you can imagine, as the needs of the population expand, as the population itself expands. And we all understand that that's a growing need and certainly something that we all need to address. Alongside providing more services to elders, there's a recognition that you really can't silo services to elders and services to younger people who might be experiencing a disability and in need of those same types of services. So there's great work done by beginning with the federal government to say, okay, we need to bring together the elder network and the disability network. So they have formed nationwide what we call ADRCs, or Aging and Disability Resource Consortiums. All sorts of acronyms.
Sure.
But the premise is that we work very closely with our local independent living center. They're called the Center for Living and Working in the Worcester area, so that we've learned from each other our approaches to providing services. Certainly the independent living philosophy is that there should be no care without me, the person being at the center of that care plan and caregiving needs. So we're able to provide support to people through what we call an options counselor. They're stationed at Elder Services of Worcester, and in fact our partner agencies to the North County and South County, as well as the Center for Living and Working. And options counselors can meet with anybody in need of information or supports. Okay. So they sometimes meet with elders or younger people who feel like they need to come up with a plan to be able to live a good quality of life and to live successfully. That options counselor will sit and work with that individual to identify their goals and then help to put resources together to meet those goals. They often also meet with family members. As you can imagine, if we hear stories all the time of people who suddenly find themselves in a caregiving role as their parents age. That can be one child who's struggling to provide all of the care, or it could be a family with multiple adult children who may or may not agree on what's the best course of action. So an options counselor is just that. They sit, they listen to the story, and they come up with options and the resources that might help that individual. It's a wonderful service, working very well, and again, not specific to any population, just for anybody in need of long-term supports in the community. And at Elder Services of Worcester area, we're also what's called a PCA management agency, and PCA is personal care attendant, and it's really a mass health program that allows an individual or a family to actually hire their own worker to come into the home. For our general services, we actually use vendors that provide the direct care services. Okay. But there's a need and there's a desire for some people to manage that care and decide who's going to provide the care, when they're going to provide it, and how they're going to provide it. So through the PCA program, we're actually providing services to many people under the age of 60, and in fact, small children are involved in that program as well. I mentioned getting phone calls into the agency when somebody might be in need of information or in need of services. That information and referral department is the first stop, and we have specially trained and certified information and referral specialists who will again listen to a story, provide resources. Oftentimes we get calls from people who really don't know what they need. It might be a concerned daughter who thinks, oh my goodness, now it might be time for a nursing home, but they may be unaware of what help is available in the home. So the information and referral worker really does a mini assessment on the telephone to help really get at what's the concern and provide those resources. We've got a very large database of resources, not only in the Worcester area, but also in the North County and the South County, again, through our partner agencies, which are Montechusett Home Care up in the North County and Tri-Valley Inc. in the South County. So we're able to respond to that caller even if they're in a different location than our basic service area. We're really trying to streamline that ability to get information out to people as quickly as possible.
That's great.
So I would recommend that if nothing else, people know that our phone number, it is 508-756-1010. 1545.
And we'll have that scrolling underneath.
There are often times where people don't, they're concerned about losing their independence.
Yes.
So they're not apt to want to hear about our services.
That's true, too.
Until they
Very true.
really need them, and then that becomes a scramble for elders as well as families. So I think the elder network as a whole really struggles with getting the word out, making sure that people know that we're here, and we have much more luck in working with other providers such as hospitals, visiting nurse associations, people who might come into contact with people who are in need, and get them to connect with us through that means.
Well, that's great to know, and that's great to emphasize that your agency is where people can begin.
Exactly.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for coming by, and there's a million other things that we'll have to
Sure.
have you back at some point and talk about that. And
Terrific.
thank you very much for coming,
Thank you.
and we'll be right back. Hi, today I'm with Katie Toomey, Registrar of Deeds for Worcester County. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
And I have to admit that even though I consider myself reasonably up-to-date news-wise and in terms of function of government, Register of Deeds is one of those things I know virtually nothing about. So
here to
first of
help you.
all, well, I'm glad you're new to the position.
I am, yes.
And what does a Register of Deeds do?
So the Register of Deeds, we oversee in the Worcester District, 55 cities and towns, all the land and title documents. So every scrap of land, i.e. the asphalt we're sitting on, has a record, and we are the document keeper of all those records.
Oh, wow, okay. So that, I mean, it's a very,
Every road,
clearly
every
a very,
farm, everything.
Really?
Railroads, we got it.
Oh, wow, so you literally maintain,
The
update
land
the
records.
land deeds,
Yep.
the land records.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It is.
Yeah, that's a lot of
It's
responsibility.
a big district. We're the largest geographical district.
Wow.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So, staff-wise,
We have a staff of approximately 23.
Okay.
We have about 12 to 14 people that record actively every day. And the term of art of recording is you bring in your deed, your homestead, your mortgage, and it is recorded. You pay a fee, and we live record. We instantaneously put it on the web within about 3 seconds of scanning it in the machine.
Really?
So
Wow.
everything is done on the spot.
My goodness.
It's crazy. It's awesome. Yeah. So.
What prompted you to run for that?
So I'm an attorney. I have been practicing in Worcester for 18 and a half years, give or take. I grew up in Holden, Massachusetts, so I'm a Central Mass kid. I actually never thought I'd run for office, but Tony Vigliotti, who used to be the Register, did a wonderful job for 46 years, and last year in January he announced publicly that he wasn't going to run again, and he decided to go back and practice law. I mostly concentrated the last 10 to 15 years on real estate transaction, residential, people buying and selling homes, refinances and whatnot. So I was very familiar with the Registry of Deeds.
This is an elected position.
Correct.
And should it be, because one of the things I did not realize until we were preparing to do this program, you actually have some sort of reporting to Secretary of State Bill Galvin.
Absolutely.
So that's a fascinating elected official reporting
It's one of
to
the
another official.
One of the only ones I know about that works in that dynamic. Again, I'm new. I was a first-time candidate. I had never run for office before. But in essence, I answer to Secretary Bill Galvin on some level. I answer to my constituents, and we offer awesome customer service. We offer a service. But all of my budgetary concerns and all of my other things come down from both the Secretary of State's office and then, things like land court and things like that, our indexing guidelines and how we do all that. But our budget and some of those other things all come from Secretary Galvin.
Well, that's even more fascinating to me. So your budget, because I'm always follow the money. It was in fundraising
Fine.
forever. Follow the money.
Right.
Where do you get your revenue?
Right.
So your budget is determined by the Secretary of State.
We submit it to the Secretary of State, a proposed budget, and then he takes all the budgets for all the different registries statewide, and then he goes to the legislature and gets the allotted amounts based on what the need is.
Okay.
But it's almost like a check and balance. It's, to me, as a taxpayer in Massachusetts, it's kind of nice to know that there's not somebody out there cavalierly saying, I need all this money and what's it for. It's an extra set of eyes to look on.
Okay. Because,
Right.
because that prompted in my mind too, well, should this be an elected position or an appointed position by the Secretary of State or just a staff position.
Right.
But so there's arguments both ways, but the check and balance thing
It gives-
makes me think it should still be elected.
Yeah, I mean, I in my campaign trails, I got that question a lot, which is why I brought it up to you in preparation for this. It's an odd thing because it used to be county governments, and the state has changed over the years, and we now, the majority of the registers answer to the secretary. There are still 3 counties out there that are independent because they never passed legislature to join into the state system. They still get afforded some of the other practicalities of that, but they run a different budget and a different demeanor on all
Yeah,
of
it's
that
a
and
different
stuff.
world. County
They order
government's a
different,
different
yep,
world,
they
yeah.
order different software. They have different mechanisms for doing stuff. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. I got that question a lot. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, on some level, I understand why it should not be elected. Now that I've run a campaign, it's a very costly endeavor, and it's a lot of time. I'm very happy to be doing it. It's a public service job. It's very different from my private practice of law, but I'm embracing it. I've been in this is my 3rd month. I love the customer service side of it. I like seeing the public. It's kind of cool.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So the work was worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great, and it's an important position.
I think
I
so.
mean, it really is. Well, if you own
Property.
any place, you want that part done well.
We do, and we get a lot of foot traffic from lawyers, title examiners, but we're getting a lot of public. It's been interesting to see, and I think people are doing less and less asking lawyers. They're doing things on Google themselves and whatnot. So we're really trying to promote customer service and be available to answer questions because people are coming in with documents they've drafted themselves. And sometimes they don't meet the criteria or they're doing something a little bit.
Now, that kind of that document would be what?
Usually people come in with deeds, homesteads, some affidavits. They're looking to kind of do things with their property to make it public record. And sometimes we have what's called indexing guidelines, and we can only take documents that are in compliance with that. But there's sometimes some gray area, some question, but you get people coming in saying, well, I want to tell the world this about my land. And sometimes we look at it and say, we can't necessarily refuse it, but what benefit is it to you, and will this affect you when you go to sell it and transfer
sure.
title? Because everything's permanent, and it becomes legal title.
Now, a homeowner purchasing a home, residential property,
Yeah.
your realtor is likely to do that, or if you hired an attorney?
Well, I would always recommend an attorney because when you're buying a home, you want to make sure your legal title's accurate. Under Massachusetts, if you're taking out a mortgage from a lender, they're going to require you to have a lawyer.
Okay.
The bank will have an attorney for you. Most of the time, people will
All right, that's
go
what-
with the
so it's a
bank
bank
attorney.
attorney.
So they will show up and be it. So we have a beautiful office, and I always encourage people to come down and visit us. We're in the old Filene's in downtown Worcester. Yes, I was
Okay.
a child of the Galleria Mall. And we're on the 2nd floor above CVS overlooking City Hall, but we have this palatial office with a multitude of public access terminals. We have staff that can help you research. We have a gentleman that came in the last week or two, and he's doing a documentary film up in Gardner about Chair City and about one in particular resident. So he has been researching old factory buildings
Oh, wow.
and plans of city things, and it's been kind of fun to see him come in and see what he digs up and what he's looking for, and we help him when he gets stuck.
Oh, isn't that neat?
Yeah.
So lots of little different
A lot
twists.
of genealogy goes on in there. People will come in and say, I own this farm in New Braintree, and who owned it before me, and that kind of stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thank you for
Absolutely.
coming. And if somebody, besides going to the old Filene's, which may or may not have any frame of reference for people who are younger than I
I
am,
love that you call it Filene's.
how would they access you?
We have a web address. We're worcesterdeeds.com, but we also have Mass Land Records, which a lot of people are familiar with because you can look up anything statewide.
Okay.
And that's run by the Secretary of State. But we also have a local web address. You can email us. Our email address is there with questions. People
And
come
that'll
in
be
and people
along the
call.
bottom of what people are watching right now.
Absolutely,
So
that's great.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
coming,
Appreciate it.
and we'll be right back. Hi, I'm here with Dave Norman, executive editor of the Worcester Telegram and Gazette. Thank you for joining us. and
Thanks for having me.
talking about the Telegram and Gazette and the changes that have come about with the paper and the online paper and what maybe we see in the future, which is hard to gauge at this point.
It is. It's always it's a changing environment, something that, it certainly has evolved in the 20 years I've been at the newspaper, but, over the last several years, and in my current capacity, it, changes day to day and week to week.
one of the things that I want to talk about right away, because before the camera started rolling, we were talking about that actually more people read the Telegram, whether it's the hard copy or online.
Right, and you've been in the business, and how many times will somebody come up to you and say, print is, the newspaper is dying. I understand that. There's no secret that we sell fewer hard copies, print copies, but just as many people will come up to me daily or email me and say, I loved your story. I saw it on Facebook. I saw it on Twitter. I saw it on Telegram.com. I picked up Worcester Living magazine. Your home team brand is great. I went to a Telegram Gazette event. We have become much less of a print-focused company and much more of a truly a multimedia company that we're everywhere. Whether it be mobile, tablets, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest. I mean, you name it. Where we're spreading and in kind of a we want to be where everybody is consuming us.
Sure, and that's for some of us older folks, perhaps. I love newspapers.
Absolutely.
But it is. I also through programs like this and Facebook. I mean, we all invite people on Facebook and other social media to see the programs that we produce here. And obviously they're seeing that through Facebook. They're linking it or through YouTube.
So what we can control is and I tell this to whether it be journalists or the public or students, is that journalism, right, really has not changed. And you're talking about, we're based in facts and interviews and reporting and fact checking. Those things, they really should not change, right?
Sure.
Those are the, we call them like the tenets of what good journalism is all about. It's what separates us from, a friend of yours sending you a text or an email saying, hey, listen to what I heard. I mean, we're based in journalism. What has changed is how people choose to consume us. So it wouldn't be wise of us to say, well, we're going to continue to just focus on the print product. And that audience is quite frankly our most important audience, but we also have to realize that younger people maybe are consuming us on social media. There are people that that don't have print copies at work that want to view us on their on their desktops, on their mobile devices, on their tablets. So I mean, we really, as far as distribution goes, as circulation goes, we have to focus on that and being where people want to consume us while maintaining those core principles of journalism, knowing that when people read what we write or what we produce, they know it's going to be accurate and they know it's going to be truthful, and it's based in those core principles of journalism. But you're absolutely right that the distribution model of how we send out that information has changed tremendously.
Sure. I have been in was in fundraising for many years with Muscular Dystrophy Association and some United Ways. And back when I started, all right, we send something, a press release to the Telegram and Gazette,
Absolutely.
A couple of radio stations, the local access television, and everybody would see it.
When somebody's a student who might be at like the Floral Street School used to have a flyer sent home in their backpack, and now the principal sends an e-newsletter, right?
Sure.
So it's the world has changed, and we need to change along with it. So we're not unique in that fact.
One of the things that struck me as we were talking here, and that I know I do it, there's so many alleged news sources, particularly on social media. So what I think people ought to do, I know I do it, I look for the Telegram or the Globe or the Times or NBC or somebody who has credibility.
We strive to be first, but we strive to be accurate. So oftentimes, we will get, phone calls and emails saying, hey, I heard about this. Why aren't you reporting it? It's because that we haven't vetted it. We don't have two sources. Maybe the police contacts haven't called us back yet. So we take great pride in the fact that if somebody makes a comment on social media, and we do see it quite often, where they say, how do you know about a news story? And they say, well, I read it on telegram.com, so we know it's true. And that to me is the most important thing that we do, is that when people know, when they see it on telegram.com, they know it's accurate. And when we do make mistakes, which we hope are very rare, we correct our mistakes both in print and online. So if there's information that evolves, even on the online news stories, we will say right in the online news story that this story has changed to include X, Y, or Z information. So very transparent. Our practices are the same as they have been for generations, and that's, I think, what separates like some of those media outlets from the world of social media journalism, which, believe me, has its place in the world. But if you're talking about what we do, it's really vetted in the fact that that our core principles of journalism really haven't changed. It should not change.
No, that's because there are so many sources, and many of them are really not very credible sources.
I think social media is a great thing, but we do use social media, and we say, okay, did you see what somebody said? And obviously, we wouldn't say, well, it must be true. So we get a lot of tips off of social media. We'll go out and investigate those things ourselves. If somebody says, we heard, I heard shots fired over, we would call the police and say, well, we're hearing that, shots are fired, and they may say, it's true, give us information, and they may say, well, a car backfired. So again, we do use social media to look into issues. It's sort of our, kind of our eyes and ears out there, so to speak. But no, very good point.
Yeah, no, you got to watch your sources of what is real news versus somebody's opinion that becomes presented as news.
Social media is it's sort of the public version, I would say, of our police scanner, where it's a lot of noise a lot of times, and you kind of have to filter it and figure out what's worth chasing and what's not worth chasing.
A lot of changes in it. It's good to hear where you're at, and got a lot of things going. It has not made it simpler, that's for sure, in the news business.
No, it's not. Like I said, when I first started, 20 years ago, it was reporting, it was meeting a print deadline and starting again the next day. But now we're truly a 24-hour news operation. I was in the newsroom last night at about 11:30 with about 15 other people, and I can tell you that somebody was probably there until 2 a.m. And when I walked in the office this morning at 7, there were already people working. So, in the old days, which weren't too long ago, it was, you come in, you chase your stories, you write your stories, they're edited, you meet a print deadline, the press is rolled, people picked it up the next day. But those days are, now it's, it is a 24/7 news operation, which, for somebody that grew up in print, it's a transition.
Sure.
For sure.
The one thing that comes out for me is, watch where you think you're getting your news.
It is a pleasure to hear from our readers that they still value the Telegram and Gazette. They value what we provide. Shrewsbury and the Central Mass community, giving them, all the important news, not only in their print edition, but, it was just expanded so much, to where, if there's a backup on 290, we're calling the state police, trying to give our people, our readers who are commuters, that news in the morning. That may never see print, and most oftentimes it doesn't.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense.
But now we're saying to ourselves, that's, Mike Elfland, who does a great job on our web team in the morning, saying, that's news that our readers really want to know about.
Right.
And that's a whole change, is giving people that digital only news, and something that may not even see see print.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
So,
well, thank you for coming and sharing
thank
all
you.
that with us, and we'll be right back.